I think Nick Swardson starred in those. I like Nick Swardson.
He is good.
So speaking of people that hate America, let's talk about Colin Kaepernick and Nike. And this is the big story, folks. We're saving this kind of till the end here. Nike decided, and I don't understand how this totally went down, because they manufactured the shoe. There's photos of the shoe. There's all this stuff about this shoe. They made a Betsy Ross 4th of July Americana Pride, and on the back of the shoe, instead of a swoosh or Nike, it has the original 13 colonies flag. A lot of people don't know what that looks like. You can Google it. It's before we had the 50 stars. Anyways, apparently Colin Kaepernick, who's a bigwig now at Nike, he don't like it. It's racist. It reminds him of a racist time. What the fuck's going on? Do we really, are we doing this? Is this what's happened now? Nike capitulated, they're taking it down.
I think you guys just fall for it. Here's what I think. Nike is one of the top marketing companies in the country, if not the world. They're like a Disney, a Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola. We're talking about a major company with very high-end, $100 million marketing budget. And so they know what they're doing. And they run these calculations. So they probably know that most of their supporters are people that are either liberal or of a minority descent, or people that would support this movement. And then it's a calculated movement that they put together with Kaepernick to get this done, because Kaepernick at the end of the day is a Nike employee. So I don't really buy into it. I think they put this up there and then they do it, and then you know what happens? Right-wingers run out and pay $500 a piece to get these little commie shoes because they want them, because now they're supposed to be bad and they represent like
little commie shoes.
They're like rebel shoes, Oh man, these got like a little commie flag on them. I fucking love it. I'm a Trump supporter. I'll pay $500. So Nike is playing so many games, because first they get the Trumpies all angry this way, and then they push these shoes on them. Like I think Nike is pulling the strings like a master puppeteer on this one.
These may actually listen. I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, and you know that, okay? George Bush 9/11.
If you look online right now, these shoes are selling. They're selling 4 or 5 times more than they were.
100%. This is entirely possible. They just drove a market. They're like, listen, Cap, you're going to get a cut of this. Talk shit about these. And now they're Yeezys now to the conservative.
And they're like, we're pulling them. You can't get them. Oh, but guess what? There's only a few left on the shelf. 4 or 5 times.
Well, they definitely make it on eBay. They leak. Then there's a pop-up store in Nashville.
Exactly. So I think they play it like a fiddle. I think it's all organized.
Wouldn't that be shitty, man?
Dude, I'll go so far back. I think Kaepernick's, this whole thing was an accident. Back in the day, if you follow football, which I don't that much, but I happen to be following this because I follow politics, he was about to be cut. And he was like sitting on the bench, and I wonder if he was just sitting out the national anthem or just didn't care because he was about to be cut and he had been benched. And then all of a sudden he gets swept into this political movement where, if you've listened to him speak, he obviously doesn't know too much about politics or even too much about the civil rights movement.
He doesn't.
And so he's a figurehead.
He has a great afro.
So am I to believe that he came up with this shoe bothered him? He doesn't know what the fuck is going on day to day. He's probably sitting in a mansion somewhere, cashing his Nike check, driving around in his Lambo. You think he has any like real like feelings about this issue? I doubt it.
Here's something I wonder, folks. They traipse this guy out and around. How come, and the media loves this guy. They fucking blow this guy. Why don't we see more of this guy on some sort of level where he's talking what you're talking about? He hasn't talked about politics. He doesn't endorse anybody. He hasn't, this guy's never brought out in any way, because you're right. If you ever hear him talk, he don't know shit. And by the way, the scuttlebutt is that his girlfriend is the driving force. She's a very, very pro Black Panther type. God bless her sister. I have no problem with you. But she steers his boat, and she saw that this would also be very lucrative, and it has become. But have you noticed that this guy, he's a figurehead as far as he's a nice silhouette. He's got a beautiful afro. I mean, you couldn't do it any better if you cut it yourself on fucking Photoshop. But I can tell you now that he doesn't offer any jewels of wisdom. The RZA, on the other hand, can spin circles around this guy. You know what I mean?
It has to do also with backlash to the NFL. You have to remember that the NFL was on a 4-year tear of horrible press. Players beating people up, players on video committing crime after crime, players in all sorts of trouble with drugs and different things. And so people were getting sick of the NFL. They were getting sick of Roger Goodell, and the media was getting sick of it. So Colin Kaepernick and the whole kneeling movement was the perfect shot that everyone could kind of strike back at the NFL, who they felt was like kind of thumbing their nose at the law. And so now what's happened, if you look at it too, that also opened up a debate over the NFL. And now the NFL's getting it from both sides, the right wingers and the left wingers, and the NFL's taking a huge hit over all of this.
It absolutely has. It's caught it from both ends. It's a no-win situation. And Roger Goodell is one of the most hated men in all of sports. They want this guy fired. He makes like $20 million a year.
People look at him like the bad guy in Spaceballs, Yes. I mean, he is like a little evil emperor.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I think they even threw around Condoleezza Rice as a possibility of someone that was going to take over for him. But I don't see that totally happening. So
now this has actually spilled over.
So you're not going to buy those shoes, though?
I like Nikes. I don't know if I'll buy those shoes. Probably not. But I do think it's fascinating how now this has spilled over into women's soccer. And so now the Kaepernick thing, they're like, okay, we destroyed football. Now let's move on to women's soccer. And now that is the new home of this debate.
Women's soccer. So we vehemently disagree on this point here. So women's soccer. So as you know, the FIFA Women's World Cup is in France. It is going on right now as we speak. We are actually down to the final 4 teams. We are at the semifinal, the final 4. It is England and the USA. They will be playing today. Is this today? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jesse. July 2nd. So they're playing today. And then the other semifinal is July 3rd, and that's Netherlands and Sweden. So, Kid Chronic, let's start from the beginning. The ladies soccer team. Let's talk about first the social situation with them before we even get into the gameplay. So the big thing about women's soccer that's getting all the talk about is the disparity in pay. Women's soccer feels like we are better than the men. And yes, they, in terms of against the competition they play, they are higher ranked and better than the men, no doubt about it. They don't generate the same amount of interest, and this is what we're going to talk about, but they want to be paid equal to the men, certainly on the USA American team level, but I believe that they're also trying to make inroads in our professional, which is what they really count on. This is once every 4 years, remember that. So this isn't a big payday for them. They're talking about, we want our money on our club level. A, do they deserve it? And I'm going to tell you why they don't. You're going to tell us, I think, why they do.
Okay, let me jump in here then.
Yes.
I'll tell you why they do. So, first of all, let's go women's soccer. It's the 4th of July. Women's soccer is fucking awesome. America should be so proud of our women's soccer team because that shows our freedom, that shows our diversity, and they go in there around the world and they kick ass all the time. They are winners. Winning, like getting tired of winning like Trump talks about, these girls actually do it. These girls are the bomb. So, here's the thing. Should they be paid what the men are paid? When you get into their pro jobs, their day-to-day jobs, those teams have owners and they have bottom lines. The owner can only pay the players how much he brings in. Right. So that's a little bit different scenario, and I don't think you can really mess with that. I don't think the United States taxpayers want to subsidize women's sports, let's say. But when you're talking about the national team, we have the men's team and we have the women's team. The men's team is awful. They get their ass kicked all over the place. Some years they don't even make the World Cup. And then you have the women's team that is awesome and is just dominant, and then they make pennies. And I would argue that there's even more advertising and marketing for the U.S. and more value for the U.S. in the women's team. So
seems to be now.
Can you pay them all even?
Gillette.
I don't think so either. And the women arguing to be paid even, I think, is the problem, because that's not going to happen. Here's what we do. We should make national sports performance-based. The team that wins the most gets the most money, or even go down to the player who scores the goals, or however you want to do that. But if the men's team goes in and loses 3 games straight, they should not be paid as much as a women's team that goes all the way to the World Cup undefeated.
Well, here's the difference, and you hit it on the head. They will never be paid. You should make it equal for USA team. I think that's a hard argument. They are clearly dominant. Let's keep this in perspective, though, folks. The American men's team, who's made a lot of inroads, is a basically 15th ranked in the world team. We are ranked number 1 in the world in women's, and we routinely are. 15's a big deal for the men. They're usually lower. Like Kid Chronic said, this is a weak squad. They didn't even make it last World Cup. However, when it comes to club play, like you said, they generate more money right now in men's soccer by far. There's no following even by young ladies in women's soccer to a level that it's lucrative in any way. So while they keep making the point of we're better, you might be. But you're also doing it against inferior competition. And this is what we're going to segue into, is the Thailand game. The big controversy with this team, and we probably could have talked about this before, but we're hitting it now, was the 13-0 ass whooping of Thailand, to which it got a celebration after every goal. It was not treated in any way classy. And then there became the talk of, well, if men did this, this would be okay. I didn't understand why people said that, and I'm going to give you the floor, but what I never understood was I watched your alma mater, Florida State, whip the shit out of team 70-7, and people would be like, this isn't sportsmanship. Lay off the throttle a little bit. What's the fucking point? And Florida State would come back and say, you don't understand. We're getting votes here. And one of the things that's voted on is
margin of victory.
Margin of victory. Thank you. Exact term. And they had to do this. Now, goal differential was a thing in this. I agree, but nobody's putting up 13 goals. It never fucking happens. So let's get real, people. But at the end of the day, I don't think men got a free pass on this. I think college teams caught a lot of shit for this. I'm surprised the women didn't. They beat up on a weakling. Every other game is 2 goals, maximum 3. I don't even know if they've put up 3 goals since that game, maybe in 1. You disagree with me on here. I think they were running it up, but you made some good points.
Here's the deal.
I thought it was
Here's the deal.
classless. They beat up on a weakling, a bully.
Maybe they did beat up on a weakling, but good. That's fucking America. That's what America does all over the world every day in a million different air bases, in a million different ways, in a million economic ways. America kicks ass all over the world, and we don't make excuses for it. And you're a right winger. When Obama went around making excuses, all we heard was apology tour, apology tour. Now the women go in there, start kicking ass in the World Cup, and it's like, oh, you kicked too much ass for America. Fuck you guys. Fuck that bullshit, dude. Let me tell you something. It's a competition, and in a competition, you play to win. What if the girls took it easy and they're like, we're up 3 goals, and then they relaxed, they started kicking it around, they put the B squad in, and they lost? Then what? Then what? You can't take that risk in the freaking World Cup. The thing happens every 4 years. You got to score as many goals as possible. You don't hold the brakes on. And if their other team isn't ready because that country is smaller, isn't prepared, women aren't as free, doesn't have as much money behind it, or whatever the fuck their problem is, their plane has a bad engine, I don't give a fuck. We score as many goals as we can, and we try to win this. It's the World Cup. Do you think other countries are going to take it easy on us? In other countries like Russia, they're probably cheating for all we know. You know what I mean? So I completely disagree.
How about that, folks?
I think that
Russia cheats. Yeah, Russia cheats.
Well, they
sports.
did in the Olympics. Remember, they got caught doping people in the recent Olympics. So
you must be so proud of that hockey goal with Mike Eruzione when he scores that.
You know, my uncles were at that game in Lake Placid, New York. Yeah,
oh my God,
close to where I grew up.
Yes, and it's Italian.
But
Italians.
for women's soccer, guys, let's be honest here. They're winners. They're doing a great job. And if they go in and, oh, here's the other thing. When you talk about goal scores, not every player scores the same goal. So one player didn't score 13 goals. It's hard to score a goal in soccer. So when you celebrate after that goal and you've been waiting to be in the World Cup, it's probably your first World Cup goal maybe, or it's one of a few World Cup goals you have in your whole career. You have every right to celebrate after it. That's what they do across soccer. Like the celebrations are kind of like an end zone dance. And I don't think that you can be mad at somebody for doing that. I really don't.
No.
And then how much nicer is it? You're like, oh, we won 13-0, and instead of celebrating, we gently put it in the goal and then turned our back on you and ran back and then scored again. I mean, it sucks for the losing team no matter which way.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. It just it got cringeworthy because you're right. These American women are beasts.
You cringe at American greatness?
Ooh, look what he did. Look what he did. That's a CNN move. He watches a lot of CNN. That was a Cuomo, I think you call that. No, it was cringy that at goal 13 to be like, yeah, and this little dainty Thai flower is sitting there like doesn't even know what fucking hit her. Do you know what I mean?
What do you think that Tom Brady and the Patriots would do? Do you think like they would take it easy? No, they would deflate the ball on the sideline so they can get a better grip, and they would score 13 extra touchdowns on you because that's what winners fucking do. You win.
They would cheat.
You win, you win, you win, you win, you win. That's what they're trained to do, and they're setting a statement so that other teams are scared of them down the road that are better teams. You know what I mean? So you go beat somebody 13-0. Now teams are changing the way they play you, and now you've got them on their heels.
It is a very interesting point. It is a very interesting point.